Sasoi, become the motor. Hey folks, welcome to another Sasoi spikeboarding demonstration tutorial. We are in Los Angeles and we're in Santa Monica, and we're going to show you a complete 37-minute video on how to have a neighborhood that's a little hilly, a little complicated with stop signs, and how to manage. And of course, spikeboarding is a form of skateboarding, and here you see it very well, carving down a little hill. And of course, it is just as much, if not more, a form of cross-country skiing. And I say more because, as you'll see, there are no tricks, there are no flips, there's no acrobat maneuvers, there's just human propulsion, very similar to road cycling or inline speed skating. So we're going to show you some cadence breaking, we're going to show you some maneuvering, and give you some idea of how spikeboarding operates in slightly highly populated suburban areas like this one here in Santa Monica. And we're also showing you the technique on how to carry a skateboard spike in a neutral position. That's a neutral position. Notice how the spike tip is forward and we can see it the entire time. We're also carrying it parallel to the board, and we're also carrying it on the opposite side of the kick leg. And there you see how you did a little cadence breaking all the way to a stop and then accelerated and kept going. Notice that we're on a shared path. We're on a bike car shared pathway here in Santa Monica that they have very wisely put out. If you want to have great neighborhood vehicular traffic traveling at 25 miles an hour, just add transport sport, add cycling, add spikeboarding, add inline skating, and the cars will go slower. There's always places for cars to go faster on freeways and 45 mile an hour roads. Hopefully those 45 mile an hour roads will start to get separated green pathways. They were calling through a car, but he didn't come. And actually, we don't know these roads that well, so we end up at a busy street. So if you don't belong on busy streets, don't go out on them. If there's no space to do a workout on busy streets, don't go there, and avoid them. Of course, at rush hour, there's always ways to get around. But here we're doing a Kubi cross stroke straight into a stand-up spike stroke, nice and gently. Most of this loop is going to be, pardon me, rather mellow. We're not going to be doing some real high-speed stuff. But if you lived right around here and you just came home from work and you made dinner and put the kids to bed, there's street lights here, so you still have enough time to go out for 30 to 40 minutes, just the duration of this video, to go out and do exactly what this athlete's doing, and you're going to enjoy yourself, and you will have had a nice workout that incorporated some strength, endurance, and balance, gotten it out of the way, and you didn't have to drive yourself to a gymnasium, and you didn't have to lift weights, and so on and so forth. So here what we're doing is we're doing some switch drifts with a little bit of one-legged carving. So we're finding the rail with the foot, and then we're drifting to the back and carving as we come down, and that's going to relieve a little bit of pressure on the legs from this cadence breaking. And you might say, well, why aren't you just sliding? Well, we're not sliding because spikeboarding is not a radical sport, and the board doesn't lend itself very well to sliding at all. So the board lends itself to heel-to-toe switch kicking, and because of its length and the wheels that we use, we're not into sliding, and also we're not even into exposing ourselves into the possibility to fall. So very much like road cycling does not get radical. Little BMX bikes and mountain bikes, they get radical, and that's part of the deal. So spikeboarding is an endurance-based sport. You're looking for strength, endurance, and balance, fitness, and proper execution of primarily two strokes: the stand-up spike stroke that you see there, which is a modification of the double pole stroke from cross-country skiing, and then of course the Kubi cross stroke, which is a combination of the skateboard kick plus the upper body move. But we can't overemphasize how casual this kind of roller skiing is. Here we spotted a little alley. It's got a little bit of crocodile situation going on with this pavement a little broke up. But we're going to Kubi cross CXC stroke straight up this guy. And of course you could find a loop and just repeat the loop over and over and over again. We didn't name any loops out in LA. We were a little busy. But what we like to do is find a loop, and then much like bouldering problems and climbing problems, they get names for locations, or surf spots also get named. Find yourself some loops and then give them some names and get to know your loop really, really well. That one-arm spiking with carving is really fun. It's a really nice time. Notice how there's no forward catch. The best that you can do on land is to ski. And forward catching is not going to help you at all in any way, shape, or form on land. That vector line needs to go to the rear. And my friends in Los Angeles, what you're looking at is a Sasoi skateboard spike. It's a very special device, very similar to a cross-country ski pole, but at the same time very different. It has no strap and also has the added ability to allow you to go into a stand-up spike stroke seamlessly. So you're watching an athlete 9 years into the sport of spikeboarding. So it doesn't all begin like this, and we will begin to break down all of our SoCal footage into smaller 2 and 3 minute videos to explain how these things are done with some freeze frame and some slow motion. And hey, if you can figure it out on your own, that's great too. Just by watching sports videos over and over and over again, you can learn quite a bit. But got a little close to that camera bike right there. Just pushed him up a little further forward. We're riding right off the back of a camera bike, about a meter and a half at times, sometimes even closer. And as you can see, there's the cadence break. We're dropping on our heel. We're putting our head back and our shoulders back, and we're putting our head over our shoulders, shoulders over our hip, and actually calculating the braking distances. So if you try to do this on 3 cadences coming in at 15 miles an hour, it's not going to happen. So you do need to calculate your braking distances after you practice. And if you're doing this one-legged carving with a cadence break down any hills, make sure you keep your eyes on your backside and pay attention to the traffic and be respectful, because this is a very quiet neighborhood this time of day. On this relatively not super steep hill, but pretty steep hill. I mean, if you just let this thing go and you weren't sliding or anything, you'd be hauling ass. So this isn't the place to come learn this stuff. You want to go to some smaller, gentler hills, but we just thought showing you this little neighborhood would entice you into learning the sport, so that once you spoke this physical literacy, you could engage it and get yourself fit. So whatever sport that you'd like to be strong for, spikeboarding is a very good language to speak, because it'll help you a lot. The sport was made so as to not have to go to gymnasiums and lift weights. So it's a weight-bearing sport, so it's a balance-driven sport, and also endurance. So if you do this as base training for ski mountaineering or for even alpine skiing, rock climbing, it's a fabulous sport to access. And of course, the full functional strength aspect of it and the hand-eye coordination is delightful. And even if you're just a pure radical athlete, you're going to need some core. So if you're a skater or a surfer and you want higher amounts of fitness, mix this in and you're going to enjoy it. And wherever there's rollout, you can go ahead and give it a little speed, and you won't have any problems. But had we spent a little more time in this neighborhood, we would have figured out how we could have found high side, low side loops where you don't touch. We call that no touch, where you can start doing loops that have a little high side and a little low side, and there's not going to be any real need to touch the ground other than maybe just a little bit like you saw there, just to stop. And we also really want to show you and demonstrate to you how the sport can activate for commuting. So imagine this athlete was dressed in street clothes and was just getting around from either school, work, or social visit. This is what it would look like in open road traffic. Notice how that spike tip constantly stays parallel to the shaft. Swings out there one or two times as it transfers, but mostly, especially when you're spiking, the bike shaft is staying parallel to the board. So the more that it goes out 1 or 2 degrees even, it's going to lose power quite a bit. Notice also how the arms are staying at 90 degrees, and that is replicating verbatim what cross-country skiers do. So there's a lot of power to be had in the upper body, folks, and we as Americans don't grow up with that. In our lexicon of human movement, we use upper body to climb with, which most people don't think much of as propulsion, and we use it to swim with. But on land, we don't use it for propulsion. So that was concrete. You can't spike concrete. It is not malleable. This guy's giving us a little courtesy, and we wave him on through. So as soon as you're ready, make sure you let the drivers know behind you that you're holding your line and that they can safely come through, no problem. So on white lines, try to stay off of paint. Those paint lines can just grab you like a railroad track, so avoid those lines as much as you can. And notice, of course, how propulsion can be had with just one arm as well. And that's a rather nice way to work out. And when we do that 1-over-1 situation where we're on one leg and spiking with just one arm, that's a great way to do loops as well and get a really nice workout. There's the concrete. Again, we'll go into a safety 1, so we keep an eye on our spike. We know it's in front of us, make the stop, and bang, back we go to discover new things. We're looking all over the place, trying to find where we're going to take a left or a right. But Santa Monica, this little neighborhood is a little bit hilly, and I believe we're headed up north, and we're going to head back toward the beach out west here in a minute, and then head back south. But really focus on how this athlete is right behind a bicycle. So there's really no difference between the bicycle and the board, and the symmetry of the sport is certain. You must develop both sides, and the fact is that most people perceive that equally effective left and right is very challenging on a board. And notice how we got a lot of respect from the Californians. They respect pedestrians and transport sport quite a bit. That truck wasn't going to come through until we called him through. And now he's probably feeling a little more confident that these people are going to hold their line. So when you call them through, they will come through. Plus, it's also very slow speed limits around here. And everyone's just going to a stop sign. Transport sport never holds this kind of traffic up unless it stops totally still. It doesn't move. We're going away from the beach a little bit, just carving out some loops. And again, if you have some direction and you know the loops that you've already made, it's going to be a little better than just not knowing where you're going. But in any case, over on this eastern side of Santa Monica, there's a nice little straightaway here, and these quiet streets with sweet pavement. You can get your cadence going to 4 or 5, 6, and switch in between your Kubi cross and your stand-up spike. You're essentially cross-country skiing, people. So if you woke up millions of people who had lived for thousands of years and asked them what this athlete was doing, they'd say, well, that athlete is propelling themselves on land with their upper and lower bodies in conjunction together. That would be known as gliding across the Earth's surface, otherwise known as skiing. Skiing has a 6,000-year history. It's an ancient activity, and for most of that history, the sport, the activity, the movement was using one shaft. The double pole shaft situation in skiing is very modern, people, incredibly modern. You can find black and white photographs of people skiing all over Colorado using one shaft. So the two ski pole situation is a very, very modern thing. So you're looking essentially at a very ancient way to ski, brought to the modern life here. And the spike tip in question obviously comes from World Cup cross-country roller skiing. You can look that up. So the little 2-centimeter spike tip at the bottom of that skateboard spike is no mystery, people. It is what propels the world's greatest athletes on pavement all summer long and 70% of the year. Hope you've been able to appreciate the very seamless quality of transmission between those two strokes, that Kubi cross and that stand-up spike stroke. And you can begin to use them optimally, or you can begin to sort of force yourself to do stand-up spike, and only stand-up spike during the more challenging circuit. So more challenging would be incline, of course, and the Kubi cross is going to be the stroke that's really going to get you up the fastest, and stand-up spike is going to require a heck of a lot more energy to do it. Here we go on a very similar loop again, if not the same one, but now you begin to get the feel of how you just begin to carve out loops for yourself and get yourself a nice workout in your neighborhood. So it's when the streets are nice and quiet and there's not much traffic around, you can begin to really have a good time in your neighborhood and get a very fine workout. And remember, people, you're on a board. So life is always nice when you're on a board. Doesn't matter what kind of board you're on. Doesn't matter really what you're doing. Everyone who knows how to ride a skateboard will agree. If you're riding a board, you're having a good time. And spikeboarding is a form of skateboarding. Absolutely. It's a form of skating. It's a form of skateboarding. It's a form of cross-country skiing. It's all three of those things. When you're carving the board, there's absolutely no doubt whatsoever that you're using full-blown skateboard skills. And when you rise climbs like this, incorporating that upper body, you're using full-blown skate as well as ski. And when you're stand-up spiking, it's pure skiing for the propulsion, and for the carving, of course, it's skating. But this one-armed skating and carving is absolutely delicious. It's really fun. It's nice and develops you like mad. And it's a little challenging because you do need to make sure you don't spike your rear wheels, and beginners will spike their rear wheels. They'll pull their spike in as they carve. It's the most common mistake around. There was a little foot drag right there. We tend to go to the cadence breaking all the time. When you have a camera bike and you're trying to synchronize everything, sometimes the bike stops a little faster than you think. You do want to learn a foot drag. Most everybody knows how to do that. It's not very complicated. It's the simplest way to break. But cadence breaking is going to be the most comfortable. It's not going to wear the bejeebers out of your shoes. But either way, we'll have more information and tutorials on how to do clean cadence breaks coming up, and we'll freeze frame a lot of this video, slow it down, and explain it in 2-3 minute, 5-minute tutorials for you. But we just wanted to show you what nice spikeboarding loops of 37 minutes look like in California, and especially in Los Angeles. We're also down in San Diego, and we'll release some of that video specifically as well. And there you can see a double poling motion, which is so similar to the stand-up spike and even the Kubi cross. So the vector line's going to the rear. You're using virtually the identical tool. You're using the identical footing that's biting into pavement at World Cup. There's a neutral carry, and that's when you carry the spike neutrally in the middle of the shaft. If you'll notice that the operation of the spike when it engages is always on that silicone handle. And there's a neutral carry again, and there's concrete, and there's no spike in concrete. It just has too hard a durometer. You could blow your carbide out in a second, spiking that stuff. So asphalt is malleable, people. It's malleable, and it heats up, and tires step on it, and it's self-healing. And in areas like this, a little spike is not going to do anything to the asphalt whatsoever. If there's a seal coat, yeah, you don't want to spike seal coat, but no roads are seal coated. Sometimes driveways get seal coated, And down in San Diego, there's a university we went to, and the whole university campus was seal coated. We respected that, did not go on there, do not spike seal coat. Seal coat is rare. When you find it, respect it, stay away from it. People are using it for maintenance, just to solidify the top of their asphalt. But asphalt on street is just going to heal up. And what destroys asphalt is freeze and thaw. Here on the East Coast, my goodness, asphalt just even when they don't put salt on the roads, just the expansion and contraction destroys it really quickly, along with the tonnage. And out west, the asphalt's going to last a lot longer. But asphalt's what you need, and so there won't be too much spiking down on any beach path with concrete. But you can go down and practice your switch kick down there, no problem. And here is a little alternate activity. You're seeing the legs can alternate from front to back and drop in as you spike with one arm. You can actually do that with two as well. But again, we'll get into alternates and connector drills all later. If people have specific questions, please just go ahead and email us at info@spikeboarding.com, and you can also give us a call and ask away all the questions you might want to know about this very, very new endurance transport sport. So why do we call it transport sport? Because it is recreation that becomes transportation. So if you learn performance cycling, then you can commute very simply with it. And riding a bike, of course, is not performance cycling. Performance cycling means you really know how to flip gears and go over hills and be comfortable with, say, 8-9 mile commutes each way in the morning. And that's because you really understand how to extract in an efficient way the energy from your body into the machine. And the same with spikeboarding. So you might be able to kick a skateboard, but that doesn't necessarily mean you know performance switch kicking. And performance switch kicking is exactly like inline speed skating. So it's nose over knee and knee over toes, and that's what the bottom of spikeboarding is. So here we are looking for a little bit of rise. We're on the flatter sections of Santa Monica. We've kind of gone through that little downtown section. It's a little more industrial, and somewhere around here is going to be a little rise, and we're going to do that in stand-up spike for you, so you can see what that looks like. And here we're just alternating between the entire range of strokes in spikeboarding. There's the 1/1. Once you begin to achieve this stroke, it's very casual. And for those of you with kids who need to walk the kids around the block and so on and so forth, and new parents who've been missing workouts, the 1/1 is probably the most important thing for you to learn, because it is the slowest of all of the strokes. So if you got young kids and you're missing your workout, you don't need to do that anymore. They can be riding their scooters or their small bicycles, and you can be tapping out a 1/1 and just wait until they can begin to go faster than you. Then you just add more parts to spikeboarding. There's a little bit of switch drifting. You want to be able to do a lot of switch drifting when you're standing still. You can use that time when you're at a light to actually develop the neurology of your left and your right. Here is a car that's been waiting to come through. Maybe he was just checking us out. A lot of people see the sport, they hang out in the back just to see it, and they don't come around. Or there's just too much traffic. As you can see, the traffic built up a little bit more. We're just blending with it. That car was taking a right, as you saw, so it just hung out back there. Knew it was going to take a turn, so it didn't even bother passing us for the 1.5 blocks that it was there. And we'll keep looking over our left here, looking for a climb. Looks like we found one. We're going to go ahead and do this in stand-up spike. So if you can find this kind of situation, this is nice. And then you can repeat the climb in stand-up spike, or you can repeat it in Kubi cross, any variation that you'd like. You can actually add connector strokes and connector drills as well. Again, we'll get into explaining that. But when you connect the two strokes, as you see there from the rear, that is a connector. So you're connecting the stand-up spike stroke with the Kubi cross. And let's see if we get to this climb here. And as you can see, we're stopping at damn near every single stop sign to a full stop, just to show you that is possible. There's a little cadence on the ones, and some one-legged balance. That actually demonstrates very much that you are skating. Remember, folks, when you've got your nose over your knee and your knee over your toes, you are skating. It wouldn't matter whether you have a skate on or one skateboard, but to skate a board means that you glide. If you don't glide, you're actually just pushing wood. So spikeboarding requires Nordic ski ability, skating ability, and a little bit of skateboard carve ability, and that's the mixture of the sport. So I hope you're beginning to get a feel of how fun it could be to get a really good workout in spikeboarding. And in about 9 to 12 months, you've mastered most of the beginner aspects of the sport. And then that intermediate phase is going to take longer for everybody. Some people could go right through the intermediate phase very quickly within 2 years. Some people might take longer, 4, 5, 6 years. Like road cycling, you'll find, and even, skateboard trick, acrobat, people can extend that intermediate range and not hit expert for quite a long time. But you're looking at an athlete here that's going into the 9th year of the sport. So that gives you a general idea of how much time things take. But all sports take quite a long time to learn, but the intermediate phase for most athletes will take less because they're going to have all these tutorials. So I wish we'd had all these tutorials, but we actually had to come up with everything. So as you can see here, I think there's a big garbage truck in front of us and some garbage cans, and that's what's holding those cars up. It's not us necessarily. Here we're doing this stand-up spike up this little hill in this two-way traffic, staying over here on the right-hand side. And stand-up spike is like double poling, guys. Double poling, it comes from skiing. Notice how that vector line's going to the rear. Notice how those elbows are dipping in here and making a diamond-shaped formation. And our camera bike somewhere here, there's the truck that was holding everything up. Our camera bike is going to holler top. We knew where the top was, but we thought they said stop. So indeed we did stop, but that isn't a failure of the athlete there. It's actually just the camera bike having said top, so that we would gun it a little more. But we knew where the top was, and so now we're going to zip right over this thing again, and we're going to revisit this little lump, because this is a tiny little lump for spikeboarding, and we're going to come up on it with Kubicross. And you could find a little lump like that, and I'd say repeat it maybe 6 to 10 times, and you'll go to sleep nicely that night. So little lumps like that are nice and fun, but you want to try to find a place where you can go down them without too much fanfare. Although all this cadence breaking that you've been watching helps your switch kicking tremendously. So there's a little excited folks checking it out, giving us a thumbs up. They're happy to see that and wondering what the heck it is. So we just scratched our spike a little bit. And whenever you want to let somebody know you're around, you scratch your spike a little bit. It's gonna perk some ears. So we're gonna find this downhill again and swivel back and do that summit one more time. And as we're just gliding down this downhill, as you can see, we're just propelling with one arm. It's called 1/2, and doing a little balance. But we were speaking about the cadence breaking, how that's going to help your switch kicking. So switch drifting when you're standing still, and cadence breaking help your switching. Of course, you're switching your legs, and you're actually doing it in downhill. You're actually doing it under duress. So to be able to switch in cadence break, what's going on right there? You're just switch kicking in reverse. So instead of kicking forward, you're kicking backward. But neurologically, you're picking up a ton of benefit from switching as you begin to cadence break. So also you're getting a tremendous amount of fitness, but you don't want to cadence break down stuff that's super steep too fast, because your knees have never done it. So if your knees begin to hurt just a little bit, then you've bitten off too much too fast. You got a little bit of tendonitis. So find some lower loops and use them. Again, did a little foot braking because we're involved with this bicycle right here, and had a little bit of consternation right there, jammed in between that rear wheel. And there's some switch drift and the bike. So without that, that would have been just a simple, clean run. And there's our friendly neighborhood police officer, and of course he's got no problems with all this. We're just behaving like a bicycle and keeping in our lane and behaving like anybody else, getting from point A to point B. Remember, we could just as well be dressed in street clothes and getting from A to B. And guys, if we begin to teach this to young kids and give them a shower at work in 20, 30 years, then hey, we've solved a lot of problems for the society. So here we're switch drifting, and we're switching the spike from side to side. And notice how the drops of the board are really helping us to switch drift. You can find the front, you can find the back, really very nicely. And there's a little skateboarder coming in, and that's how the skateboard's always been used, and we enjoy that quite a bit. Small deck, double kick, and you could ollie and trick and flip and all you want. When you ride a board like this, you're going to be switch kicking profusely, and you might even be spike boarding. So we cover our wheels so that we don't spike our wheels and we don't step on the wheels. And we have a big drop, so they're really close to the pavement, and it facilitates just this motor mount, just a big motor mount that you're on top of, and you don't want to have any turbulence or consternation being on that board and traveling at speed. You just want to be underneath you and low to the ground with plenty of space behind it or in front of it, so you can heel to toe switch kick. That is the bottom of the Kubi cross stroke. Here we're in a bike lane, headed through this main street here. We're going to pass a little bicycle and then take a left-hand turn. There's kind of a really cool theater with sort of a little sculpture of a half man, half woman, theatrical performer, which is very, very fun here in Santa Monica. And then we're going to find that street again, which I think is 4th Street. Not quite sure. And then we're going to Kubi cross it. We'll just about be done with this workout. And folks, hope you've been enjoying what you're seeing, and realize that everybody can learn this physical literacy. It's not anything special. You're not looking at a special athlete in any way, shape, or form. You're just looking at a new set of physical movements, and both of them have existed forever. So from the waist up, you're looking at cross-country skiing. From the waist down, you're looking at a skateboard kick or a scooter kick. It's one and the same. And you're also looking at the board being driven from the front and from the back with either leg. So you're looking at full symmetry. You begin to acquire these movements, and they will become very fluid, the same as they are here in this athlete. And some folks might say, well, why are you wearing Lycra? Well, why do inline speed skaters wear Lycra? So why do road cyclists wear Lycra? And there is that theater we were speaking about, or that store, whatever the case might be. They wear Lycra because you're going out to sweat bullets. So you're sweating like a fiend, and you don't want to be a parachute either. You don't want to capture a bunch of wind, be getting slowed down. And in spikeboarding especially, you do not want to capture the edge of that skateboard spike on your quadricep. So if you're wearing flappy pants, you're liable to catch them. Like if you're commuting, it's not that big a deal. You're not going to be going full out as fast as you can. When you're going full out as fast as you can, you don't want to be capturing your pants on the edge of your quadricep. So Lycra is going to help. And of course, also in racing, you're going to be sponsored, and sponsorship needs to be adequately presented on your uniforms. It's very difficult to photograph uniforms when they are flappy and they have no ability to get photographed cleanly. It's very difficult to develop a race sport. Spikeboarding, of course, will begin to get raced quite a bit. We have $8,000 King of Mountain prize right now for stand-up spiking up Latigo Canyon Road. And just give us a holler if you want to start. Buy some gear, start to train, qualify. We have a good qualifier out of Denver, Colorado, a gentleman named Stuart Gillespie, winner of the Milk Rice 10-day stage race out of Ireland. And he's qualified, and we got a couple other qualifiers too. As soon as we get some fellas going, and ladies, come on out, qualify, and you could race for that equal prize money amongst yourselves. And here's the Kubi Cross stroke again. There are the trash cans that we saw earlier. This is the same exact summit that you're seeing, and the garbage truck is gone, so the car can pull straight through. And we're just going to hammer this up on our cadence. We're staying in there. Pulling a lot of cadence on that side right there. See how many we do here. Try to keep it even if you can. And at the top, drop a little stand-up spike into it. It's going to be mighty fine. As you can see, it's a very good workout, doing some connectors in between the Kubi Cross and stand-up spike, and it's going to really help your VO2 max. You can do those intervals, crank out, say 7 of them. First 2 warm up, next 2 heat it up, and the next 3 just lay them down on the line. And the last hard one you do, you ought to be accelerating at the top. So you can always add, you cannot subtract. So don't go out and do intervals and do the first 3 hard and the last 4 slow. But you can always add a cool down to them as well, and that will make things interesting too. So we'll go into doing intervals another day, but all of you athletes that do endurance intervals in cycling or swimming or running, you already know how to do them. And this sport is no different. If you want to go fast, it's no mystery. Going fast requires interval training, so lactic acid development, and that's it. So we're thinking we got somebody back there, but they're gone. We're waving them on through. And I think we're coming to the end of this, folks, so hope you've enjoyed this video. We enjoyed making it. Now you know what a big loop looks like in LA. And remember, spike hard and spike often and spike boarding. And we will see you at the next one.